All right, so today's topic is meditation approaches for dealing with conflict, disagreements, and hate. And before we get to that topic, as you're aware, this particular format is about meditation as well as learning. So we will start with the meditation and we will try to reach that higher state of awareness and be in that state. And then we will have a quick coverage of the topic, and then we will end it end the session with another session of meditation. The recordings are available on our site. The links were sent by email. So let me know if you actually didn't get the email. I have sent the link to the page where all our recordings of all of the sessions will be uploaded. We have 2 of the recordings up, and this session will also be put up in a few days. All right, so let's get started with the meditation now. So as I gather, nearly all of you have been attending sessions in Sahaja. So let's get started first by raising our Kundalini energy. So we will close our eyes first and then slowly raise our energy to prepare ourselves for the meditation. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the technique by now. Now, to begin our meditation, the most important quality that we need to demonstrate or be in that disposition is humility. So let's try to work on our humility. There are many ways of evoking this feeling or disposition. It starts with the respect for the divine power, the all-pervading, infinitely intelligent, omnipotent power that runs this universe. So let's respect, acknowledge, and surrender to that power. This is the power running the whole universe and our lives and every small nuance in it. Let's request this power to take over and act in our lives, solve our problems, release us from all our worries. Now we will go deeper into surrendering. So let's take our right hand, place it across our forehead, which is the 6th chakra or the Agya. This is the location. Let's bend our head slightly downwards, sort of holding our head in our hands. And let's say the affirmations. I surrender. I am not the doer. I forgive. I am not important. Nothing belongs to me. I have no likes or dislikes. Now let's bring our hands back on our laps. Raise our attention to the crown of the head. For several seconds, let's just place our attention there and see if we are able to enter into the state of being a witness or the witness state. Watch our thoughts without any reaction. We can hear the sounds around us. We have all our sensations and all our senses active, but we are just watching. We are not involved in any of our thoughts. Let's continue in this stillness and calm state for a few minutes. Now, as thoughts come to us from the past or the future, let's make a note to detach. Those are not important. Our state of meditation is more important. So let's just detach and let them pass by. And gradually, we can settle down into the state of stillness. Now we can slowly open our eyes and check what our state is. If we are feeling that silence and relaxed sensation or feeling inside us. Now with that, we will get to today's topic. And as I had mentioned, this topic is going to be covered in two parts. So I will today go over some of the problems specific to this particular aspect, and the manifestations of this problem, the root cause, and so on. Next week will be focused primarily on the solutions or the methods, and they are fairly nuanced. That's the reason that I'm trying to spend 2 weeks on it. And I would also encourage you, as you are listening to this session today, I'm 100% sure that all of us have some sort of a problem or the other, or a related problem in our lives. So I would encourage you to put your attention, introspect on that problem. And if you do feel like sharing it, asking for, what could be done, then I can try and see, what might be the recommended Sahaj method of trying to deal with that problem. That might help others as well. I will not be recording the part in the session that deals with individual problems. So that is only for our live session. So just so you know. All right, let's start with that. So the topic I chose after some introspection was conflict, disagreement, and hate. Now, classically, I would say that I would like to at least break it up as a three-step process, or sort of one leading to the other. The first thing is a potential conflict, and all of this is in our head, so to speak, right? And the conflict is simply something that doesn't gel well with either our thinking, our likes and dislikes, our disposition, anything that appears out of the ordinary or odd, or something that creates a reaction within us. Let's just define conflict from a spiritual and a meditation standpoint. Conflict as something that just evokes something of a reaction within us. It's not acceptable to us, right? So that's a conflict. And a conflict can be dealt with in a couple of ways, right? It's not necessary that we have to react to it and we have to take it seriously. For all we know, and which is what a lot of people who meditate do, is just let it go. I mean, okay, it's a conflict, so you're just watching it. That's fine. Let's just move on, right? And that's the classical and the most desirable reaction that we have. However, that is not the case all the time. So the conflict has the second part of the reaction, you might call it, which is not such a desirable one, is that we tend to stop our attention and we either get involved in it, we try to analyze it, we think about it, and so on, right? And the moment we go down that road, the next step is it invariably creates some sort of a disagreement with our disposition, thinking, principles, rules, whatever you might call it, or liking for that matter, right? And so that's the second step. So we now have firmly moved into the territory of I don't like this, I don't agree with this, this doesn't seem right to me, this doesn't seem to work for me, etc., etc., right? So that's the disagreement that comes within. So I'm just trying to take us all through how our attention processes it, right? The first is the conflict, and as meditators we have those two options if we have attained the witness state, which in most cases we do in some capacity or form. And then you move on to actually compartmentalizing it as, yes, I disagree with this, I dislike with this, I don't like this, and so on, right? And then even at that stage, we do have a choice. And a lot of people, even people who do not meditate, choose to ignore it or choose to live with it and not do anything about it, right? But then when we actually take some action on it and we produce some reaction, or it creates something within us, that's the third stage. And that's where the rest comes in, rest of the emotions, negative emotions, truly negative. emotions come in, which is our hate. You end up not liking somebody. And we all know that hate doesn't have to be, when we use these qualities or when we mention them or these emotions, we always imagine the worst. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a very subtle, sort of a minor form of hate within us, just been simmering. It doesn't interfere with anything that we do, but still it's occupying some piece of our attention, right? It's there in the back of our minds, and for years we might have it. It might just be a dislike, for example. Even that qualifies as some form of hate. And then if it simmers and if it stays with us, and depending on the intensity and how much we feed into it or get trapped into it, it can lead to anger, and then inability to forgive. Sometimes we can even be vengeful, and in the worst extreme, it leads to violence. And I'm not going to be talking about physical violence, because we have evolved as a civilization. For the most part, most people don't take to physical violence, and we don't even want to cover those people. However, many of us inadvertently or sometimes deliberately do inflict violence on the emotional front. And as simple as saying something hurtful and harsh, or just reacting, saying, "Oh, why are you doing this?" And just lashing out, for example. How many of us have done that? All of us, right, at some point in time or the other. So even that should be viewed as violence. And you will be surprised to know that even people who meditate are no exception to this, and I am no exception to this at all. So although the degree varies, the extent to which we might react and inflict sort of emotional harm to others might vary. It's hard to put people into any sort of category. Every person is different. So that's sort of the train of events, or the chain of events, you could call it. And at every stage, the conflict stage, we have, if we are more evolved, if we are in a better state, for example, we have a chance, we have an opportunity to just let it go, and then it truly let it go, right? And not just react. And the second stage, we realize we have a disagreement, we feel strongly about it. Even at that point in time, we have a choice not to do anything about it. And third stage is when we have already acted, and there is a consequence and there is an outcome. So this is the typical description of the problem. And fortunately, it can be traced in meditation and in our subtle inner energy system to a particular chakra, which most of you by now already know and have guessed that it's the Agya Chakra, right? It's the center over here that's the most complicated within human beings. And so what does it lead to, right? Again, all of these are problems that all of us face at one time or the other. People and relationships, we have these hang-ups. Oh, I cannot work with this person. I cannot deal with this person. I just cannot get along with this person. I cannot understand this person, right? How can you even, be in the company of this person? So all those kinds of problems come in, and it's unfortunate that these problems do enter into our closer relationships as well, with members of the family, maybe distant family, immediate family, maybe people who we work with, and so on, right? And if it is not explicit, trust me, it is there inside. At least it's there in our attention, it's clogging up, it's there in our Agya Chakra, and it's firmly embedded. And the worst is that it might be there, but we don't actually realize that, right? That could be the worst. And we are not even acknowledging, or we are not even aware of that problem. So that's one area where it causes a problem. The second part is incidents can create. So not just people, right? Nobody might be at fault, and an incident just happened, and there might be situations that we go through. They continuously build up, right? More and more such situations. Nobody's involved. This is just an adverse situation or an event that we have been facing, and this continuously simmers within. The point here where it accumulates in our attention and Agya Chakra is that we are unable to let go and get over that. And then we have some form of resentment, disappointment, whatever it is. It can be as simple as repeated rejection in, say, any field that we like. Maybe it's our career, maybe it's something that we wanted in our lives, we didn't get on, and so on. Even those things are covered as part of this problem. So ultimately, it's there in our system, and it is hurting us and preventing us from deeper meditations and from rising spiritually. The other category of this problem or manifestation are ideologies and conditions. Now, By now, you would have guessed that this is related to what we call as the superego in Sahaj. This is the left Agya Chakra, or the problem with the left Agya Chakra. So any fixation, any inflexibility beyond reason, and my way is the highway sort of a approach. All of this comes under ideologies and conditionings, right? Now, I should point out that it is actually good to have some conditionings. Now, the rules that are good and necessary for us, we need to have those rules. This is not about saying that we should all follow a life where there are no rules. No, I'm not talking about chaos. I'm not talking about lack of discipline, lack of order. But there is a fine balance. Even if you take driving on the road, the rules are there. Everybody needs to follow the rules or people get hurt. But when the rules become excessive beyond a point, leading to inflexibility, and then we begin to impose some of those onto others, or people find it difficult dealing with us. And sometimes we have to be creative, we have to be flexible, right? To work with people or get past situations. So when we are rigid, and when the other extreme becoming when we are dogmatic, we have some beliefs that we absolutely cannot get rid of. So those are the things that we are talking about over here. So then when this sets in, because of the lack of flexibility, we have only, as people might say, two gears, right? The gear that I'm fine with everything as long as things are going my way. And then the other gear is, oh, it doesn't work for me, just throw it away, stop, pull the plug, etc. Right? So only two gears, right, that we can operate. So we need to move away from that to being, say, there could be something interim. I could make a compromise because life is also about a level of balanced compromises that we have to make. So when you're unable to compromise, then that's a problem with the superego. So that's another big category relating to this problem. And then, of course, the popular one is mere likes and dislikes. Now, this is not something that is, you might say, too obnoxious, too difficult, but still it can be extremely sneaky and it can be detrimental to our lives. And as it creeps and builds up and creeps upon us, it can actually be quite significant. For instance, we may not be so inflexible. We may not have strong disagreements. We may not get into any conflicts. We don't feel strongly. But this might be one area that might be a problem for us. Like we have a big list of likes and some list of dislikes as well. And so even with just the likes, right, maybe we don't dislike too many things. But then it's always this way, where you go stronger and stronger, you go into the likes, then the dislike is the complement of that. So if you like certain things, then it automatically follows that we probably don't like other things. So it could be in the areas of materialistic pursuits. We might begin to develop likes and preferences for every single thing, right? From our clothes to people around us, to the cars, to whatever else, homes, to food, for example, right? So anything that we have more than required, you could say, attachment to, and it is an essential component, it needs to be in a particular way, then it begins to interfere with us being this free spirit. So likes and dislikes are in fact an extreme problem. And the situation I'm trying to tell you is all of the other four problems that I said may not exist, right? You may not have any hurtful past incident. You may not have strong ideologies. You may not have a particular conditioning for this is how it should be done. You may have great relationships with people, right? All four clear. But when you come to the fifth one, we might just stumble, which is saying that you may have your own personal deep list of likes and dislikes. Now you might ask, is that wrong? I'm not hurting anybody, right? So why is that wrong? The context of this topic and the discussion today is what creates an obstacle for you to rise above into that higher state of meditation and make spiritual progress. So in that context, even though you are not hurting anybody and you may just be spending all your money and sometimes even borrowing money to buy a lot of things, it does not harm anybody. You are harming yourself, right? And you are unable to get over that and rise above into the Sahasrara or the higher state of meditation. So likes and dislikes are an important category by themselves. And sometimes it can lead us to becoming high maintenance, needing a lot of things, very needy, and so on and so forth. And more important, it can actually complicate our lives. It can take the simplicity out of our lives. We buy a lot of things, we may have to maintain them. It again takes up a lot of our attention and so on, right? So those are the problems that arise from this whole, you could say, chain of events, or all of it is related to the Agya Chakra, all of it is related to the ego and the superego. Moving on, even bigger problems, right? So this is not about just having problems inside of us, but then gradually it tends to grow. And classically, when the problem enters and we feed it and we don't do anything about it, it tends to multiply, or it tends to just proliferate. So we are seeing this point needs no explanation. In some of the Western countries, especially in America today, I think everybody acknowledges that we are divided a lot in every aspect, whether it's politics, whether it's even things like healthcare, or the way things should be done. In every issue, there's a lot of division, and the root cause of that is because individuals have had those issues. And in the earlier slide that I mentioned, one of those 5 issues, or all of them in some capacity or some shape or form, and then the individuals have been either harboring those, nurturing those, or they have been fed situations and fed negativity, so that they have become strongly opinioned. And as every individual begins to develop this problem, it grows and grows and grows until it spreads into society, and then it becomes a countrywide and a worldwide problem. And worse still, people can actually tap into that and take advantage and create an extremely negative loop and significance, significant events that can harm us. Stronger opinions can lead to, for instance, activism, conspiracy theories, fault finding, criticism. The whole critic business is a big business today, right? Reviews, people say. Of course, reviews are sometimes helpful, but I'm not talking about the consumer reviews, but there's this whole industry of everybody trying to criticize and trying to review and say how good or bad, or trying to judge, right? So it takes bigger forms and more dangerous forms. And then amplification in a connected world. So we are connected by social media, we are connected by the news, we are connected almost, we can talk to anybody at the other end of the globe within seconds. And so this negativity, all of these opinions and everything gets amplified further and further and creates a serious negative loop. So from a spiritual standpoint, you could say, I started with some sort of a minor conflict that led to a disagreement, that led to some kind of a strong disposition or an ego or superego. And then that led to my family, to my society, and to my country. And then now all over the world, it's an issue, right? That's how it amplifies and feeds itself. Another problem, the biggest of problems, is that people can use this, and people are doing this today. A lot of advertising of products is based on problems. So it's based on problems either that are there and amplified, or problems that do not exist but are labeled as problems. And then they say, oh, here is a solution. Or the all famous example of a politician, right? All our politicians to some varying degree are like that. They say, I'm here to solve your problem, right? This is a problem, A, B, C, D, portray everything in negative things and almost make it feel that we need something. And they say, I'm here to solve, and I am your martyr, or I'm whatever, I can give my life for this, and I can solve this. So the problem is it creates fear and insecurity within us. And the reason it creates is all of this, the strong opinions, all our complicated things in our Agya Chakra, and we've been holding, all of this is just buying into all of this fear mongering and all of these solutions that are being offered. If we weren't scared, if we weren't worried, then we wouldn't buy much, and we wouldn't buy into people's solutions and theories. Then the other bigger problem in society is that because of this Agya Chakra having problems, we tend to gravitate towards like-minded views and opinions and people. So we will almost always associate with people who think like us, who agree with us, right? And we will try not to associate with people in general, not view them rise above their shortcomings. Instead, we will try to gravitate away from them. And this creates groups of people. This is what is sort of anti-collective activity over there. And then these associations can become stronger and stronger. And then you can have groups of negativity, this group, that group, advocacy group, and whatever else, right? So that is a problem, and it's not a problem. Like-minded views which are positive are an excellent way to get people together. That's not what we are talking about, but like-minded views which fuel hate and negativity, that's what we're talking about here. So that's a bigger problem. So moving on, all of these are related. Now let's come to the actual subtle system and the spiritual underlying spiritual root cause. As you have already guessed, and you already know by now, all of what I just said, the individual level problems and the bigger problems in this world are related to the Agya Chakra. And the Agya Chakra is the sixth chakra. It is present here. It is the most complicated. It has the problem of ego on the right side, on the right Agya Chakra, which is the sense of accomplishment, I-ness, individuality to an extreme, and the problem of conditionings, inflexibility, and superego, and all of that, right? And the way it has happened is that the whole evolution of human beings, the spiritual system has evolved step by step. Each of the chakras evolved, and then the chakras are also present at a cosmic or a collective level. So we have the spiritual subtle system within us. We have the seven primary or the main chakras, and we have them represented within our spiritual system. But they are only you could say, the microcosm within the macrocosm in the whole universe. You have all of these chakras and these structures and qualities and everything present. Yes. So Agya Chakra is in the forehead, right over here. And you can actually refer the map. I will refer you to the page on Sahaja Online. It shows a detailed map of the fingers. Index finger, for example, is the Agya Chakra. But simply stated, the Agya Chakra is present in this region of this forehead. And if you look at the subtle spiritual system diagram, this whole area is represented by a couple of, you could say, balloon-like, inflated objects. And that's typically where the ego and the superego lie. And these are two balloons of the ego and superego present within our Agya Chakra. And as the Kundalini energy rises and passes through, the six centers, the fifth center is right over here, and the sixth center is here. It actually passes through the what is known as the optic chiasma, and passing of the Kundalini deflates these two balloons. Or in other words, you could say, conversely, the balloons have to deflate for the Kundalini energy to pass through. One works on the other. And only, let's say the balloons are inflated strongly, then the Kundalini has difficulty passing through, right? But inherently, the Kundalini energy is also intelligent enough, and it has got the quality of, even if it managed to get in, then it manages to suck in and, activate the power in this chakra. And once the power in this chakra is activated because of the Kundalini rising, that then sucks in, deflates these two balloons. And then that creates a wider channel for the Kundalini to rise, get into our brain, and then achieve that state of meditation. So that's how the mechanics of the Agya Chakra work. For more details, you could always refer Hands and Feet. It's there on a page on the Agya Chakra on Sahaja Online. I'll link to that in one of my emails. So essentially, that's the root cause. We all know it's the Agya Chakra, right? But it's a lot more beyond that. It's not just about identifying the problem, but then trying to solve it, right? Inability to forgive, as I said at the beginning, when we have disagreements, for example, the first stage, right? You have not acted on it. It's not a problem, and it's not even a disagreement, but it looks like it doesn't gel with you. It's getting there. At that moment, if we are able to just let go and say, oh, it doesn't matter, just let it go. That is the best situation for us, because there is no other way. We cannot live a life in a cave somewhere or in the Himalayas where we aren't faced with these adverse events or situations. It is going to come to us every day and many times, right? And throughout our existence and waking hours, we have to have a standard mechanism. And the first standard mechanism for that is, to the moment we view an adverse situation, try to rise above it and try to just let go, or at least say that this is not going to cause a serious involvement and a reaction from my side. Just let it go, right? So the inability to forgive is a root cause. It's extremely hard, and I know it's hard because I have gone through this problem, and I do continue to go through that. Everybody goes through it, and it's best that we realize that this is a problem, and then we try to work on it. The other category, so one is I cannot forgive, let's say, right? That's one whole category. The other thing is attachments that we form, right? So if we are attached to, for example, our family, or to certain people, we are attached to our homes that we live in, maybe to clothes we wear, maybe to events, maybe to particular activities, and so on, right? Of course, they are good. Attachments to some extent are necessary. We want to live in this world, we want to be normal. But when it gets to a point when it is a serious, strong attachment that we cannot give up or we cannot let go, and there are too many of them in too many of these in spheres or facets of our lives, that's when attachments become a problem. And because we are attached to something or firmly holding on to something, then these attachments are like chains and they are holding us back. And because we are kind of in chains, we are not, obviously not able to move freely, right? And that's what is causing a lot of these problems, because we are in chains. The other thing to remember in the root cause is that it's extremely subtle. So you could have, and trust me, I have seen individuals, excellent people, so to speak, in every way, highly admirable, respectable people, nice to live with, work with, interact, potentially have seen or have not interacted, have had no negative interactions, but still in some form or the other on a particular topic or aspect, they may have some shortcoming. And that's human, right? All of us are human. There is nobody who's perfect. But the point here is that this problem with the Agya is not oh, come here, turn on the switch, solved, and go away. It is not going to be a problem that can be solved and then goes away. It is a continuous day-to-day problem, perennial problem. As long as we are human beings, right, it will exist. And it's extremely subtle. Without our realizing, it can creep into our attention and into our system and into our psyche many times before even we can realize. So we need to understand that this root cause with us is always going to be there, right? It's not like a health disorder. Okay, now I've gotten better, now I'm done, right? It's not that. That's the problem with this problem, right? And then it needs lifelong focus. So that's some of the root causes over there. And I want to stop here, but I just want to give you a preview of all of the solutions that we will go through, spiritual solutions otherwise as well next week. So I have, based on the way we need to manage our attention, I have some suggestions, and all of this is based on Sahaja teachings and such experiences of practitioners and so on. I also have spiritual solutions. So I would like to go into this use of the earth element and how negativities are addressed. So that's an extremely important discussion, each requiring in-depth explanation. Attentional control again is a topic of its own. Then eye control is what I call controlling where your eyes go. That's again another explanation of its own. And then a few others that we have. So I would like to go over these solutions in our next session. In our next session next week, I will do recap of this. But in the meantime, if you do feel that you will benefit, you can benefit more from this session, place your attention across your life from the past to who you are currently, and see, introspect if you have any problems, specific problems that you would like to place your attention and then try to solve. Now, you may or may not share them. You can ask a direct or an indirect question, and we'll try to put our attention. See, that's the thing. This session and this method of Sahaj is not about discussing mentally, right? It is trying to put our attention on those problems and trying to release them into this, you could say, cosmos, or this, medium that is there, the elements that are there, so that the problems gradually begin to go away, right? And it is also for us to activate the introspection mechanisms so that we can use the same Sahaj technique to gradually work on these problems and allow them to just get absorbed by this earth or into this cosmos, right? To free and liberate our spiritual selves. It is very different from a personality improvement course where you mentally try to discuss and you try to make a mental note to do something. No, it's not that, right? And that's why I say that putting your attention, enlightened attention on the problem is the first step. We have to acknowledge and introspect. The second is offering them, to this whole power and saying that this is my problem. I surrender this problem, right? Is the second step. So if you do have problems for the next 1 week, you can think about that, anything that's nagging, or anything that you feel is an area of improvement. And please bring all the questions. We will devote some time next week to go over those specific scenarios and situations. And then I can try my best to see from my earlier, whatever body of knowledge that exists, as well as experiences, to see if we can actually go over these solutions. All right, we'll stop with that. And we will finish up with another round of meditation. And we will specifically work on our Agya Chakra this time. So let's close our eyes. Now take a deep breath. Now let's surrender our problems. If we can identify a few, one or two or three problems, let's gently place them in our attention and the collective attention. And then say an affirmation: I forgive and I surrender. This is no longer my problem. And now take our attention to the Sahasrara Chakra. If thoughts are coming, or thoughts related to our problems do come, let's just release them, let them pass by. Be in that witness state. Let's be comfortable and relaxed that we are in the company of the divine power. Let's now slowly open our eyes. Thank the all-pervading divine power for giving us this opportunity to introspect on our lives and all our problems. And let's raise our Kundalini energy to conclude the meditation. All right. Thank you for joining today's session, and we'll continue next week. I look forward to seeing you all. I can also share the recording with you. So let's get into next week's session with some preparation. Thank you.